Okay, so we're going to do something new here. And, a lot of times people are like, what do you think about this? Or, something's just a trending topic and it's what people are talking about. And I love the live chat concept so much. I love having a live stream where you guys are in the chat coming up with ideas, sharing your takes and insights. And I was like, well, what if we could just have a spinning wheel, throw together whatever topics people are thinking about so you guys can suggest whatever. They'll add to the wheel and then we spin it, and whatever it spins on is what we talk about. There's a Streamyard link in the live chat if you want to join. If weird people start joining, I'll pull that down, but you can DM me, message me on X, and I'll share it over to you if you want to jump up with us. With that being said, we would essentially just spin the wheel. Oh, that's like right on the line. So we're going to talk about YSL Nicole first. So YSL Nicole, about an hour ago, Thugger Daily, who's giving daily updates of the YSL RICO trial, shared a post that just said free YSL Nicole, and it was a Snapchat video here. Or Instagram Live. So she has defended somebody that was part of YSL. They're not involved in the YSL RICO trial. But now this attorney, Nicole Fagan, has been arrested on gang charges. So Twitter's going wild, X is going wild, they're reacting to it. And it's like all these videos of her listening to Future, 42 Doug, and this one, Police, play the same games.
At the same time, that shit is weird.
So X is basically like, free this girl, Nicole, she's a real one. But what exactly is going on? Why was she arrested? Well, we have this nice press release from the Atlanta Police Department. Let's see what it says. Let's see if we're still going to say free Nicole, if we think she's a real one, or if we say keep her there. So arrest update, homicide on Baker Street Northwest at William Street Northwest. Now, this homicide originally happened back in 2022. We're going to find out how Nicole's even tied to it, possibly at all. During the investigation into the September 27th, 2022 shooting of two males, let me make this bigger. There we go. At William Street and Baker Street in Northwest Atlanta, investigators received information that Nicole Fagan, that's who we just looked at, contacted a suspect in the shooting, advising him of active warrants for his arrest. Fagan provided information she had learned during a preliminary hearing related to the shooting and advised the suspects to dispose of his phone. She said, get rid of that as police were going to arrest him. I need to make a soundboard because I really need a button reaction right there. Investigators confirmed Fagan was not representing the suspect she called, so there's no attorney-client privilege excuse here. And, if you're committing, like, aiding and abetting a felony, there's a separate issue there. But in any case, there is no expectation of attorney-client privilege because she wasn't actively representing this person, the suspect. So investigators were able to secure warrants charging Nicole Fagan with OCGA, something Georgia, 16154E, participation in criminal street gang activity, and criminal solicitation to commit the offense of tampering with evidence. So remember, everyone right now is saying, free Nicole. Fagan was taken into custody in Gwinnett County and transported to the Fulton County Jail on these warrants. There's been 2 updates. So on February 21st, 2023, Keontae Davis was taken into custody by Atlanta Police Zone 2 officers for aggravated assault and murder. The other update, on 10/1, so October 1st, 2022, Atlanta Police Homicide Unit was notified that one of the victims succumbed to his injuries. So now it's a death. This case has now been changed from an aggravated assault to homicide. And then they have the preliminary information about the circumstances regarding the incident here. So our newest update is free Nicole. So what do you guys think? Do we free Nicole? Do we keep her in holding to find out more? Do you think this has any bearing on the YSL RICO trial that's ongoing just because, she has represented someone who is part of YSL that's allegedly tied to this homicide that's not part of the YSL RICO indictment? What do you guys think? So, and then, hey Duddy, so you're suggesting that we talk about Fani. So that's already on the wheel. We can take YSL Nicole off. And Fani, I would honestly, I'm not going to try to cheat my own wheel system this early on, but I would love to have other people up here to talk about Fani Willis. I'm not that into the political side of it, but I have a lot of thoughts about, in short, I feel like she threw her man under the bus a little bit. You know, we've got some things we can talk about there. But I think some guests, if you guys want to hear more about what it could mean for the RICO trials going on, the Trump trial, I might not be the right person for that. So if a guest wants to come up, we'll jump right into it. If it doesn't spin to it right away, I won't be mad. All right, so we're going to... Sorry, I was spinning the wheel and didn't share it, but we're going over to Fani because it just spun there. So with the Fani news, if you saw my thumbnail, I had Nathan Wade in my thumbnail. If you ask me, Nathan Wade got thrown under the bus with the Fani's questioning. So Nathan Wade gets up there, he's like, yeah, you know, we knew each other, we met at a conference in 2019, we weren't really talking, you know, during COVID, I was really concerned about my health, right? But after that, we started going on trips together, she would pay me back, you know, nothing suspicious was happening. Fani gets up on the stand, and to be fair, I was in and out listening, but whenever I seemed to tune in, I feel like she was throwing this man Nathan Wade under the bus. Let's pull them up here. Let's see. Okay, so there's this picture that we've got here. Just so you guys have something, we're talking about Fani takes a stand. This is someone that she was allegedly dating, and she's kind of being accused of having a conflict of interest, not just because she had appointed him to a position that there were other people that may have been better qualified for, but they used to go on trips together. They were going to Belize, they were going out to restaurants. She talked about, he drinks wine, I drink Grey Goose, and she was just like, well, there was no gifting. There wasn't really an unfair exchange of money. I didn't benefit from it, and he didn't benefit from it. We were just having a personal relationship, and, you know, we'd split the bills. I'd pay him back in cash, or I'd pay for everything because I'm an independent woman and didn't want him paying for stuff. That's not how I work. So in the course of her commenting on this stuff, that's all fine and well, right? She starts going on about how this man kind of has he's not well endowed. So if you didn't get to watch any of the live streams and you only watched the news reports, I don't think most media outlets were kind of going into those details. They're not really that relevant. But as far as if you're watching a live stream, some of the most entertaining and fiery moments are Fani Willis breaking down why they didn't work out. And then let's see, the goose makes Fani loose. So we're going to have poetry going on in here. I would really like to see if a guest wants to come up and talk about the Fani situation. I have some thoughts on, you know, how these things work. I guess one other insight I'll sprinkle in case this is, you know, it's the first test run of us doing a topic roulette here. So if people don't actually want to join, I'll say it now. I think it's really interesting that we have a prosecutor, or this is the DA. Like Fulton County, we have these RICO trials taking place. Then we have the DA coming up. And she's like, you know, I keep stashes of cash in my house for emergencies. It's all fine and well. I paid for all these things with cash. There's no paper trail. Fine and well. But on the flip side, every time I tune into the YSL trial, the RICO trial, anytime someone's being questioned about an underlying charge or past behavior by one of the co-defendants in the trial, they're like, and was there also cash in the vehicle when you pulled them over? So now it's kind of like, all right, well, can every single co-defendant in the YSL RICO trial now just say, hey, you can't insinuate that there's any criminal activity because we just heard from the DA, straight from the DA's mouth, that it's normal, that in fact it's a black thing to keep cash stockpiled at the house for emergencies. So on one hand, it's like, yeah, there's nothing weird about thinking having cash on hand is good. But at the same time, there's a major RICO trial going on where the presence of cash is being used to kind of create the look or the assumption that criminal activity is taking place, or it was used as some type of probable cause for police or investigators to look further. And you know, I think that that's a little bit incompatible, even though the general principle of keeping cash is nothing weird, right? And let's see what you guys are saying. So Deddy K is not independent woman, a boss bee. So I don't know how YouTube works with that first hour threshold, but apparently you're not supposed to curse right away. But it's on the screen. And then Hey She Reigns. So She Reigns Beauty says, I think the difference would be is that Bonnie has a career to show where she gets her money from. Do you mean Fani? And the defendants, yeah, so Fani, not Bonnie. And the defendants in the YSL case may not. Yep, so that's true too. I guess the one exception there would be, you know, obviously for Jeffrey Williams, for Young Thug, he has his music and his record label, which there's income coming through from there, right? The royalty receipts, everything like that. But for some of the other co-defendants, you know, that's true. Do they have other places to explain where money is coming in from? So I just thought it was an interesting kind of parallel. Other than that, I thought it was more, everything with the Fani trial is just more entertaining than, I don't know, I don't think it's this be-all, end-all of, I don't know, some people think it's going to really get Trump, and some people really think it's burying him 10 feet under. I don't really think it's either of those things, because if they were to even move to disqualify, all that would do would be stretch the Trump RICO trial out even further, right? They'd have to find another special prosecutor to come in and basically restart the clock. It'll just keep dragging on. And maybe that's a win if your strategy is to delay, right? But otherwise it's like, it's not just gonna go away, right? That's just my take. And then let me take Fani off the wheel. If you guys have other topics, we're gonna try this out. I can add anything you want here and we can spin it in. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Clayton Echard. Now, Clayton Echard, I don't watch The Bachelor, but that's where everyone knows him from. He's from one of the Bachelor seasons. He was a Bachelor. And he's been involved in a lawsuit for a while now, like really embroiled in it. And some crazy stuff is coming out about one of the women, or I think the woman that accused him. So I didn't really take a deep dive into this case, but I've heard others talk about it enough. And what really caught my attention is, we'll read this article to find out what's happening with her, the accuser who falsely accused him. Essentially, at some point it came out, this woman was accusing Clayton Echard of essaying her, of R-wording her, and she became pregnant because of it, and said she had all this proof of it. But then when she laid out her statement of facts, the act that she said, the interaction that they had, which apparently never happened, she still only alleged that they engaged in oral and oral only. So she files this lawsuit alleging, you know, she's pregnant with twins from Clayton Echard. Then it comes out that she's only even alleging that they didn't even have PIV intercourse. So it turns out they're writing her off as a false accuser, but they're not giving her any jail time. Let's look at what happened with her. And then Duddy says, I have no life. You tell me what I should be interested in. I don't know either. Look, I'm the type of person, I grew up in New York. I love diners with like super long pages with tons of different items. Like I just love them for the sake of it, but then I order the exact same thing every time I go anyway. So I'm not good at thinking of new things to do, except a spinning wheel, so that way you guys can tell me what to do. So let's talk about Clayton Echard's false accuser. So this article here says jilted stalker, 30, who lied that she was pregnant with her ex-boyfriend's child, then tried to frame him as would-be mass murderer during terrifying smear campaign. So her name is Jenny Keats Rawling, wrongly told, wait, this is the wrong one. I think I stumbled upon another false accuser story. And that sucks, because that means there's a lot of them. But let's see. Do you guys want to read this one? And see what this crazy did to accuse her boyfriend? Let's see what it says. Hey, Tracker. Oh, you just missed my little take on Fani. But I did defer it because I was like, look, I know there's other people that have paid a lot more attention to it. So if anyone wants to jump in and talk about it, we will circle back to Fani. But let's talk about, I guess we're going to look at, what is her name? Jenny Keats Rawling. She's a false accuser, and she's not getting any jail time for the accusations. Let's hear her story. So, defendant Jenny Keats Rawling wrongly told police her life was in danger. Victim Jake Green said he lost 2 jobs and his car because of her behavior. A jilted girlfriend who lied and said she was pregnant with her ex-boyfriend's child and tried to frame him as a would-be mass murderer during a terrifying smear campaign has been spared jail. Jenny Keats Rawling, 30, sent a chilling online SOS message to police wrongly pleading her life was in danger and alleging Jake Green was hearing voices and he was wanting to kill people. Police dispatched patrol. Sorry about Kanye's mouth down here. We can talk about Kanye if you guys want. Suggest it and I can put it in the wheel. Police dispatched a patrol in a bid to speak with Mr. Green, but called off their manhunt after attending at Keats Rawling home and discovering her message was a hoax. As part of her revenge campaign for being dumped, Keats Rawling from Seattle, Greater Manchester, bombarded Mr. Green with more than 100 silent phone calls and even impersonated a police officer in a bid to speak with him. So we're getting like little bits of some stuff that we've heard from like the Jonathan Majors, the 32 phone calls, some impersonating police officers. We heard that with Ilma Gore trying to coordinate, crowdsource accusations against Marilyn Manson, where they kind of impersonated like an FBI letter and sent it out. This girl just do it all, the kitchen sink. Innocent Mr. Green said he lost 2 jobs and his car because of the impact of her behavior. She also harassed his family over Instagram and messaged his new girlfriend, Taylor Coates, to tell her to watch her back, accusing her new boyfriend of being a liar and financially abusing her. So now there's the extra element where she, as the ex, is going forward to the new girl and saying, he's a liar, he was financially abusive, or he's financially abusing you, new girl. Watch your back. In a statement to police, Mr. Green, who blocked his ex-girlfriend from 8 different social media accounts in a bid to stop her trolling him, said he did not want to see her prosecuted, but he had no choice in the end. So he doesn't want to bring action against this person that's stalking him and accusing him, falsely accusing him, and honestly, maybe even pushing the bounds of being emotionally abusive. She made me feel scared and anxious, said Mr. Green, which is qualifying for harassment. I would describe my mental state as a mess as a result of Jenny's actions. I now feel that I have no option but to pursue a prosecution to get her to leave me alone. Mr. Green said that he and his family had tried to help Keats Rawling with her financial struggles, but she had manipulated them and made false accusations, including accusing him of stealing. I felt like I needed to move from my home address, he said. I am now living on edge every day, wondering what is next. I do not want to have any contact with her. I want her to leave me alone. Ms. Coates said, at the beginning, when I first received the messages from Jenny, I was obviously aware of the situation. So this is the new girlfriend, Taylor Coates, speaking. But when she made those accusations against Jake, it made me doubt my relationship and it caused me to have a bit of a breakdown. I want her to stop those messages. She obviously has issues that need to be sorted out and let me get on with my relationship with Jake. So the new girlfriend is like, it got to me. It made me have a breakdown. And I wanted her to stop because I want to get on with my relationship with Jake. So at Stockport Magistrates Court, because this is in the UK, Keats Rawling, who has been diagnosed as autistic, well, I guess that's kind of a random thing to note there, pleaded guilty to stalking causing serious alarm or distress between April 14th and October 6th of last year. She was sentenced to an 18-month community order with a requirement she attends 25 days of rehabilitation. And then, hold on, JT Moore, are you ready to come on in? Give me a thumbs up. All right, cool. Okay, so everyone shout out JT Moore in the chat. And then let me make sure I can hear you. You might be muted on your end. Chat, can you hear JT? Because maybe it's me. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you can hear JT, because I can't hear him. And they're going to be on a delay, so... Nope, okay, so they can't hear you either. You know what it is? Click the settings button and see what microphone input it's using, because Streamyard will sometimes change it from what your computer actually registers. And thank you, chat. Okay, I hear you now, I think.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Hey, yes, I hear you. How are you? First of all,
Fine, how are
you
you?
can say hi to the chat. They're saying hi to you already. So Erica and Duddy both say what's up.
Hi, chat.
And then right now
Okay.
I'm just in the middle of this, reading about this girl who falsely accused her boyfriend. So, did you catch this story or did you just jump in?
I saw you backstage talking about it. I hadn't heard about it in the news as of yet.
No, I think this was a case in the UK, so I think maybe if it was a big story, it might have been bigger over there. I actually saw that Umbrella guy, another YouTube streamer, talk about it on X, so I was like, oh, I'll pull that article up, and then I got it confused with another case that's going on. But let's finish this out, and we'll see what you think about it.
Okay.
So, let's see. So she was sentenced to an 18-month community order with a requirement she attends 25 days of rehabilitation, so just 25 days, and was fined 162 euros with 199 euros in costs and victim surcharge. So euros are not that different from US dollars. So it looks like they're giving her 25 days of rehabilitation and what would amount to, I don't know, less than $500 in US dollars. She was also made subject of an 18-month restraining order not to contact Mr. Green, Ms. Coates, and 2 other family members. She faced up to 18 months jail under sentencing guidelines, but a judge decided not to send her to prison. Ms. Akas Khan, prosecuting, said on April 17th of last year, the victim reported that his ex-partner, the defendant, of 6 months, had been continuously making unwanted contact with him since April 15th. He said that there had been approximately 96 missed calls on his phone when they broke up, the relationship with the calls being made at various hours of the evening and morning. There were no threats in the call or any conversation, just a silence. So she's just calling and letting it hang, I guess. However, he recognized the number to be the defendant's. On that occasion, the victim did not take it further due to the defendant's mental health concerns, but the unwanted contact persisted. The defendant called him multiple times despite being spoken to by officers. He explained that she had also messaged his brother, stating that she was pregnant with the victim's child. He believed that to be a lie, part of the ongoing stalking campaign. On April 20th, the defendant was arrested and bailed with conditions not to go within 500 meters of any property that the victim was present at, and not to contact him directly or indirectly, and not contact him on social media. But the following day, the victim reported to police the defendant had continued to contact him, was also making unwanted contact towards his family. Okay, so that's why I guess he needs to take this forward because it's involving more than just him. On April 29th, there were 30 calls, 13 more calls on April 30th. She contacted his mom by Instagram, 3 phone calls, and 10 messages. The victim at this point blocked the defendant on 8 different social media accounts. So there were 118 contact attempts since the bail conditions were put in place. Jesus. So even after she's bailed out, she makes 118 more contact attempts. The point of the bail conditions were to protect him from unwanted contact. So on May 5th, Keats Rawling, the ex-girlfriend, made contact with police online saying, "My boyfriend Jake Green suffers really bad with his mental health. He is hearing voices and saying he wants to kill people. I am scared for my life and I desperately need your help." So this is after all of this. He's saying that all these things are happening on April. After all of this, after the conditions and the contact, she contacts the police and saying, my ex-boyfriend's the one that's crazy. So police go to her house and see he's not even there. The prosecutor says she also impersonated a police officer to speak to the victim and sought out his new partner and made attempts to contact her. His new partner says the defendant has been sending her messages telling her to watch her back, be careful, he's a good liar, and has taken everything from her. So it goes on. She has no previous convictions. Her lawyer says she's diagnosed with autism, dyslexia, and dyspraxia. I think she recognizes those issues and that she does need help. I'm sure there won't be a repeat of those offenses. She comes from a good family and her father has been with her through this. He has been with her at every attendance at court and fully supportive. He understands the issues she has. She's sorry for what happened and just wants to put this behind her and move on. She has done the right thing and she would like to have this resolved. So at sentencing, I'm not sure who Mohammed Rafiq is, says, "We have heard that what has happened, and as a bench we are sympathetic to your issues and the things that you suffer from, but it was not wise to put someone through that distress. We've decided to not send you to prison, but allow me to warn you, if you do not follow the instructions of the probation service, that will happen." Whew. So they're saying because of her conditions, she is not going to get jail time. What are your thoughts, JT Moore? You have the floor.
I don't Well, I could say that the UK or just outside of America has a different criminal justice system. So um, we like to harp on like harsh punishment, like long jail sentences. That's not the case, at least in Europe. So I wasn't expecting anything to come of like it would in America. But to say that they should be looking at more of like some sort of psychiatric program, something like that, as opposed to um, if you don't complete whatever the probationary guidelines are, we're going to then put you in jail. I think if we're,
Especially without any prior offenses, too. So they did specify no prior convictions on anything.
but when they say that she comes from a good family, I think that works against her. Her father is there at all of her appearances, but where is his accountability while she's doing all of this? I'm like, it's not like he's intervening to try to stop or knew about any of this
Yeah.
activity or anything like that. So I think that works against her. It shows that she has a system that will enable her to continue to do this or to coddle her in such a way. So I would say it's a more of an issue of what is not the state, but like, like what is the government going to do to say,
Like the
we
social
want to put
structure that's
you.
around people, right? Like the whole thing that this girl could have been around, and trackers suggesting her dad could have just taken that phone away, right? We wouldn't have had those 100 and something phone calls. Something just that simple as a means of support could have given her some brevity to step back and
Yeah, I'm
detach
like,
from whatever she was feeling and get it together.
I would say, yeah, like instead of them saying she has a good family, like, does she have a good therapist? D- does she
Yeah.
have, does she, is there something that's stabilizing her that's going to, other than what the court is off or is saying that she must do, what else is ensuring that she has learned her lesson or she's in the right state of mind so it doesn't repeat?
Yeah, and I'm guessing I don't really exactly know in the UK what 25 days of rehabilitation means because in the United States here, rehab to me means rehabilitating to get off like of a substance that you're on or something like that. But maybe in their language here, since they didn't really allege any substance abuse being having any role in this girl's life or this case, they're saying 25 days of rehabilitation. Maybe in the UK that means, mental health. It doesn't have to involve any substances at all.
It
So,
could be anything. It could be community service.
yeah.
That could be interpreted as that. So it can mean a multitude of different things.
I do want to give a shout out. Thanks, Erica, for becoming a member. Your first as a member, shaking my damn head. So I don't know. I think it's like pretty clear cut. She was out on bail, and then she still continues to try to make this contact. I don't think there's mixed signals here, right? If you're told you're already supposed to stop contact, I don't think we need to wonder if there was he said, she said, and maybe he was misleading. There was an authority in place saying, stop making these calls, stop making the contact. This is pretty clear. But some of the cases, it's just we don't have that action taken. Other people aren't being contacted by an ex. It's only the ex contacting their ex. So when one tries to go and vent to another person, it boils down to a lot of he said, she said, or maybe what's on record in that text message. So I think in this case, we might see a conviction at all. Yeah, it's another country. But because she took action after authorities told her to stop doing certain things. And maybe if that didn't happen in that order, if he didn't initially report it to authorities, they didn't arrest her and let her out on bail, it might not even have looked so bad for her. There might not have been evidence to show she was doing it again. So I think that's really interesting in fact she got convicted at all.
I think that the strongest point is that as opposed to them bringing the evidence in on that case, the family members that were being contacted could have filed a case against her for like harassment, and it would have been separate. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
another person, another victim.
correct.
Especially the mom. The mom said it was like multiple platforms being can you imagine like having such a gripe with someone that you go and look up maybe you have the mom's phone number anyway, right? Because you're close to the family while you're dating. But then you go and reach out to them by like email, and then you look up their Instagram, and then you look up these other things, and it's just like, if you have to go through these lengths, you're probably overstepping your bounds if
But
reaching them one or two ways isn't
that's like
welcomed.
what you see with like celebrity stalkers, but this person's not a celebrity.
Yeah. That's so crazy. I would never want to be in that situation, to be a celebrity that has a stalker. Like, there was the Taylor Swift situation where she sued for $1 on principle because she was stalked by somebody. And I just, ugh. It's like, how do you avoid it even with security? If someone with security can't even avoid, it's scary.
Yeah.
I do only have one thing left on my wheel roulette, and that was going, unless other people have topics that they want to talk about. Did you have anything you wanted to say earlier? We were talking about Fani and then also the YSL RICO trial a little bit, because an attorney for someone that's previously represented a YSL member was arrested on gang charges because she called them up and said, hey, you're a wanted suspect. Throw your phone away so they can't see what you've been talking about on your phone. But do you have anything to say on either of those topics that you might want to revisit? Or
yeah, like I watched pretty much both of those the past 2 days. And I can't necessarily speak towards the second part about the throwing of the phone away. I might have missed that from switching back and forth between them. I saw today where the lawyer was trying to get off the case because she's not getting paid like a living wage. And the whole Fannie Willis thing, like, it has absolutely like nothing to do with Trump at this point, like with the hearing
it's
that's
just
going on.
entertainment. It
But
seems like a soap opera.
yeah, it is the best kind of soap opera or entertainment because it's not dealing with any common person. All of these people in the courtroom are all lawyers. Like, they're from the ex-wife uh to the Fannie Willis's father to the law partner. Everybody's a lawyer in the courtroom. So
Yeah.
it's like knives sharpening each other all at the same time, because and then some people, losing their cool because, like Fanny, because it's emotion, it's personal. So it's nothing but good entertainment because
Well, and I think if she gave more yes or no answers, we wouldn't have had so much in like, I don't know, it felt very behind the scenes because we're hearing about all their trips and the things that they're buying while on their trips. But I was like, if she's prosecuted cases. She's been a trial attorney. I was like, there's certain things that if I were her, I would have imagined just give a yes or no answer and don't give the details. Don't tell us about your caviar or your gray goose. But at the same time, it's like, if there was nothing funny going on with how that gray goose is paid for, then it doesn't really matter. But at the same time, I'm like, you know how people are when they just go on a roll on the
well, yeah,
stand.
they
Curb
say
it.
you're the worst. If you're defending yourself, you have an idiot for a client, what have you. But the state was arguing to squash.
So she didn't have to go up there.
Yeah, and she just walked up and said, "Drop that motion. I'm gonna go up and and just."
I think the entire public was like happy in that moment, though. They're like, all right, yes, it's going to get interesting. Like, no matter what people want as an outcome, when they saw her, I think she like put the packet of paper on the state's desk, and she was waiting, and everyone, I was in a live chat, and everyone's like, yes, she's going
It
on
was
the
like a
stand.
wrestling match where you see somebody about to tag in, and it was like, yes, she's in the ring now. It was primetime TV. It
was great. And I think a lot of people misunderstood because her dad came off as like, like very fatherly, maybe grandfatherly. But I do think some people might have missed that he has an attorney background. One of the defense attorneys that came up, it wasn't Roman's attorney, and maybe it was Trump's attorney. I don't know who it was exactly. But he came up and he was like, hey, how have you been? Because they've worked cases together before. The father, Fanny's father.
Yeah.
But when you take that into consideration, now it's kind of like, oh, and then he's going up and saying, I was watching this on TV, the coverage of this case, the state, of course, prepped me for certain questions, and then they're like, well, did you speak to your daughter Fani about any of this testimony? And he was just like, and he gave that silence, and it was like, oh no, you could have been really helpful as a witness to help your daughter out, but because you've
No, but
established that you're an
he
attorney
said
and you know.
no, but he said she was in the room. I don't remember if she
Yeah.
came in or
No,
not.
yeah, you're right. He said she was in the room. She may have been in the room. It wasn't even a conclusive. She was in the room with us. It was, well, she may have been in the room. But that pause, because I watched the live chat, as soon as there was
But
that moment of silence where he didn't answer, the chat was like, oh no.
but then I felt as though he brought it home when it was, so have you been watching the news coverage? Yeah, I've been watching it. And I was
Yeah, you
like,
can't look
"What?"
at us. We can't stay away from it. We know.
And he was like, it's everywhere I go. And he was like, I wasn't under sequestration. I wasn't under a subpoena order.
Yeah.
So that's your fault for not subpoenaing me or
And I think
having me
they said no more questions right after, right? The defense
yeah,
attorney was like, no more questions, judge, as soon as he said that. That was the
yeah.
last, from that attorney, that was the last thing. So I don't know if that was because it was his last question anyway. You know, some attorneys like to end testimony by saying, hey, did you prepare for this testimony? Everything else I just asked you. So sometimes that would have been the last question anyway. But part of me was like, well, is that your last question? Because his
Well, you
response
don't know what door
got
that
you
could
off
open.
guard.
You don't know what door that could have opened, because even when the lawyer that was on Zoom was asking him, so how do you know about the money that we're asking about? Like, how do you know specific? It was like they said they asked about the money being kept in the house, but how do you know specifically what we're referencing as far as the testimony from the day before? And he was like, well, I was briefed by the attorney.
Prepped. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah, and that was true too. So I cut in the middle of that and I just heard them like talking about California trips and the dad wasn't with them in California. So I didn't really know. I jumped in the middle of it and didn't even know why the defense attorney was even trying to go down that line of
they were trying
questioning.
to figure out the address. Like, when did he move in with Fannie Willis? Uh,
In South Fulton to register
yeah,
to vote or something, right?
and who exactly was she dating, and his information as to who she was dating, when they were dating, being to the fact that they lived together. When did she move out? Did she come back? Did she have any interactions with him, with any of the people she was dating? Stuff like questions in reference to that.
And I think all of that's like kind of a stupid question unless he actually knew and wanted to give the answers, right? Because, you know, not everybody, especially when it's a adult parent, adult child, knows the whereabouts of their kids all the time. And I agree, Tracker here is saying that her dad is an extraordinarily well-respected attorney. I think he came off as just like gentle on the stand. Like he came off as like a family member. He didn't seem like he was up there to bully on anyone or
Yeah,
look.
he was. I think he kind of left his lawyerness like at home. He was just more of there as the
Yeah.
supportive dad, and he was just like he ran down his resume saying that he was a lawyer in the first world court with um, like the genocide that happened in Africa in like the mid 90s and stuff like that.
I
Um,
think I heard he was working with like the Nelson Mandela Foundation. I had a hard time in some parts of this because I had to jump off to be on meetings and then I would like try to come back in and like 2 times speed it to catch up, but certain details just go beyond me when that happened.
yeah, but I think he did a solid job. I think a lot more than I guess Fanny did yesterday when she was saying that she heard testimony and stuff like that, and she's coming on as a witness and refuting the testimony that other people gave or stuff that was in the motions and stuff like that. They're supposed
I
to
think it
go.
was important for her to get under what Yurdi, her friend Yurdi or ex-friend had said, right? I think she had to counter that. because that would have put the timeline, the shift in timeline, it would have brought into question stuff that was said in the affidavits by both Wade and by Fani previously about the relationship timeline. But besides that, I think everything else is just like entertainment, like hearing about all the fun, the fun of
But
us
I'm like,
going on
she
trips
didn't even
together.
get a chance to like have them ask the questions, like you said, with the yes or no answers, and then come back with the redirect. She just, yeah, I'm just gonna do it all in one day in one sitting, and then call it quits.
Well, I wonder if they wanted to call her back this morning and it was her decision to be like, nope, leaving it. Like, what I said was what I said. Because it seemed like everyone's, like the court reporters expected her to be up on the stand again today. And then they were all like announcing that that was it. She wasn't coming back up. So I wonder if it was her call.
I think it was her decision because obviously she runs the office.
Yeah.
So
And she's the client in the situation anyway. Like,
yeah, so I think it was her decision not, and think about all of the media press that came from her appearance yesterday. So it's a matter of, I think she just was trying to like do damage control and say, all right, I said what I need to say, and then that's it.
and I think the court of public opinion, like when I was watching live streams, people were pointing out, like, oh, this seems like a little weird to watch in a room full of attorneys. But besides that, like the court of public opinion had like the sound bites and they're like, oh, this is a mood. And those types of statements where it's like, I feel the same way, or that's why I don't let a man pay for anything because they're just going to cheat and leave and dog you out anyway. It's not going to be a real. So there was a lot of like
Well,
shared sentiment
she
on
kind of
public
outed his
opinion.
cancer though. I was like, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, because he kept it real low because when he was like, I had to protect my health during COVID, like he seemed to really, he didn't come out and say I had to protect my health with extra caution because I have cancer. He didn't give that detail, but then she goes and testifies and she's like, guess what he has?
Yeah. And she kind of alludes to what the type of cancer is as well. So
Which is emasculating, I think.
yeah.
Let's see. So Tracker says his story of the restaurant in Cambridge not taking his cards or traveler's check, that was heartbreaking. So true of America. It doesn't matter who you are. Ask Dorothy Dandridge. So I think I missed it. So they didn't want to take.
He was telling,
I missed
like,
that
in reference to the large, as the other lawyer said, hoards of cash at home. He said that he went on a family trip with Fani and Fanny's mother, and they wouldn't accept his Visa, his American Express, his traveler's checks, when they would accept other customers of Caucasian backgrounds, but they would accept his cash. So he felt it necessary to always keep cash on hand because that would always be accepted.
Okay, so, but Fanny didn't need to do that because she always has a family practice of having cash on hand. That's how she was raised. But this kind of laid the groundwork for why, at least for Nathan Wade, he was dealing with cash and his dealings with Fanny because they're traveling and he's had issues traveling without having cash previously. So that's kind of like explaining why, if he uses Cash App with other people or she uses Cash App with other people, we know she's comfortable using cash because she says it's how she was raised to keep cash on hand all the time. But we needed that explanation for him, why he was paying for cash as well. So that was him giving that reasoning. That was his why. At least from that point forward, he started carrying cash on their trips.
No. I'm not talking about Nathan. I was talking about her father. Her father explained,
okay,
why he instilled it into her.
So Tracker's talking about the father.
Correct.
Well, that makes sense if we're going back to Dorothy Dandridge. So now I'm totally caught up. Because I knew that was like, I keep hearing people complaining like, you guys didn't use Cash App with each other, not one time. Which is kind of like, I have friends that they use Cash App all the time, and to split dinner with them will be the only time I ever do use Cash App. I don't really go on Cash App.
But I think
but other people use it for everything.
Wasn't necessarily cash apping back, was trade-offs, was I'm not giving you value for value, but I'm giving you expense for expense. Like, you take care of this expense, therefore I take care of that expense, not value for value.
I agree. That makes sense. I just had the wrong face. I thought it was like, oh, so he had a bad situation. Nathan had a bad situation. That's why he started using cash. And that explains why they're both using cash with each other. But now I
Yeah.
totally get it. It's the family, passing on the oral tradition. Hey, when I'm raising you, I'm going to teach you why it's important to have cash for emergencies because this is what can happen.
Yeah,
So
he
now
even went
I had
into
it bad. I had the wrong character.
he has multiple safes in his home. Uh, he might bring uh, clients things home when he was an attorney, put it in the safe, you know, continuing to, keep things in, have like his own personal safety deposit boxes at home with valuables, whether it's money or documents, stuff like that. And saying that, she grew up around this and this is why she would do that.
I say I think I agree with like pretty much everyone in the chat saying like kind of learning from this case that you can't trust everybody. You saw, I guess the friend didn't want to respond to the subpoena. Yurdi didn't want to testify, but once she showed up on that Zoom to testify, it seemed like she was okay with laying out the timeline and saying what she had to say. So the idea of like if you have a falling out with your friend, that could come out to
Every
bite you
every
in the
like
butt.
everybody has some, like, she was fired from the DA's office. We don't know why exactly. She says it was an ultimatum of either resign or you will be fired because of something that happened. We don't know what that is. And then today, the other attorney that was in practice with Wade separated their partnership, and now they're saying that it was because of a sexual assault that occurred. He's denying it, and then they try to bring up a witness to it and the actual person, and they wouldn't allow it because it was like, this is opening the door to a whole other thing.
Is that why they're like the judge is meeting with one witness in chambers rather than out on the floor in front of the media?
No, that is in reference to um the attorney-client privilege, which is basically the whole crux of why this is taking like the whole 2 days. Because yesterday morning, as well as half of today, was arguing out basically, can partners that the two partners that were in that were lawyers with Wade, can they testify in the hearing? And if they represented him on his um, divorce, at what point do they have personal knowledge and at what point do they have professional knowledge as far as them being his attorney? So the lawyers are trying to figure out every technicality to every loophole within every law that there is. They're citing
Well, and
laws
when
from
you
other
have
states.
multiple co-defendants, or well, not co-defendants in this case, they're the ones bringing it forward. But when you have multiple attorneys, you've got way more eyes on to look for each of these loopholes, right? That's why I love the live chat. So I'm not trying to compare us to the attorneys in this case, but there could be I could be looking at something on the screen, reading it out loud and completely miss it. And then someone in the chat, because there's more eyes on it, will be like, no, go back. Did you see that just there? And when you've got more eyes on it, you're going to find more details, more loopholes. Um, and they've got that in this case. I do think it comes down to the judge's decision, though. So
I'm
kind
like,
of what the judge decides.
the judge doesn't know what to decide because there's like 5 different lawyers for this one side and they're all arguing different points, and he's like, I'm trying to answer one question, somebody's asking another question about something else, and there's no real order or sequence to anything, and is like whack-a-mole. You answer one thing, then another lawyer says, well, I take issue with that ruling. So it's just a constant back and
I
forth.
wouldn't want to be the judge. Especially like, it's high profile too. So it's not just like a courtroom and there's a lot of noise in there. There's like noise on the outside.
I'm like, I wouldn't want to be the judge. Like, think about when Fani was on the stand. he couldn't even really admonish her like you would a normal witness and
Because
say,
this is the DA.
yeah, you can't say just answer the question. Like if you want to give an answer after, like he tried to do it towards the like maybe what 45 minutes into her tirade of her not answering the direct question and her just going off on tangents. Yeah, can we just stick to the question that was asked and then
Right, they could have been done today. But I
so
wouldn't want to be him. There's too many. It's too high attention. Like nobody's ever going to understand. Like whatever ruling or he comes down with, nobody across the board is going to accept it or his reasoning for it.
but I think that it's a good test on the legal system, at least for attorney-client privilege, because they're showing that it really does stick, and they're trying to figure out like, well, if you saw something and you weren't actually working at the time, you can talk about it because you just observed it, and or but
Because then it becomes personal knowledge, not something that you've learned through in the course of like as a work product or in the course of
but that's
representing.
very ambiguous. Like if you are my attorney and I say, yeah, I'm having some sort of extramarital affair or something like that, and then you see me with somebody on the
I see you
street,
getting in the car when we leave the courtroom, right? Like we're leaving the
I'm like,
courtroom, court's
you
done,
could
but I see you.
you could assume that that's who I'm having an affair with, but it doesn't confirm anything. The confirmation of anything was given to you under privilege, but what you saw is very ambiguous. So for me to say something about something ambiguous would be confirming the knowledge that I have from privilege. So I really can't answer anything once I signed, we signed the intent and, I'm representing you. Anything I know about you in its entirety is privileged because one thing leads into another and bleeds into other things. And how can anybody keep track of recollecting
What
you
was
said this to
when?
me in this setting as opposed to that other setting?
Well, and I think any single attorney would want to err all the way on the side of caution, be the most conservative you can be about what would actually like all of it's privileged, all of it's confidential until someone forces me, like a judge tells me otherwise, that I've got to come out and say it. And not just a judge with an initial ruling right there in the courtroom, but it's really got to be pressed before I want to come out and say something that I believe was said to me under attorney-client privilege, right? I think like the whole, there's a diverse school of thought making up attorneys. Attorneys aren't just the same people because they're all in the same career field, but I think as a whole, all of them would be in the same bucket with wanting to err in the most conservative side of not sharing anything that could be attorney-client information. I think across the board, they'll all be unified in saying that, like, I'm going to push as far as I can to not have to divulge something that might be, even if I'm not 100% certain that it is. If it might be, can't get into it.
Correct. And they're trying to figure out if Wade said this, then you can confirm it because he's basically given permission by saying this. All you have to do is confirm it, whether or not. I don't. I still can't do it.
And I'll say,
I don't
Erica,
know.
come on up. Do I still have the Streamyard link in the chat? You can just jump in. It'll bring you my pool, and you can give me the thumbs up, and I'll put you on the screen, Erica, if you want to join in. You have a YouTube channel though, right, JT?
Yeah.
Put
Live.
chat me the link. Well, you can say it out loud so people can hear it, but chat me the link, and I'll also drop it in the live chat too, so
Okay.
people can jump over to your channel.
Live live vids. Um,
Let me see if I can pull it up. I'm getting like crazy results that are not you about live videos. But yeah, you'll see a private chat on our Streamyard window. And if you drop the link here. Oh, let me open your banner. It's on your banner. Oh, okay. That's your handle then. I'm glad you said it out loud though, because I'd be like, live, 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 live. Now I know that it's live, live, live.
Yeah.
All right. So link is in the chat there. Erica, if you want to pop in, pop in. And I was gonna say the only other topic I have on my spinning wheel is the Reddit. Am I the asshole? Are you familiar with Am I the Asshole?
No.
So people go to Reddit, and it's abbreviated AITA. And the whole premise is, here's the situation that happened. What do you guys think? Am I the asshole for this? So they lay out, and it's obviously the poster, whoever's writing it, it's their perspective only. They write out the situation that happened, and they ask Reddit to answer. Am I the asshole in this situation? So I thought that could be a good thing if you want to stick around. We can go through some of the top, most contentious ones this week and judge for ourselves if we think someone's the asshole or not. This will obviously get into a lot more, social dynamics, relationships, just demeanor and mannerisms. What's the right thing to do when you're dealing with other people? Not really a current event type of conversation, but still interesting.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that.
Sweet. So Erica, if you want to jump in, and especially Erica, if you want to circle back to something with what's going on with Fani and Nathan Wade, we can do that too. I'll see you pop up over here. But let's see. Let's do top this week. All right, this one was already rated not the asshole. Are they all rated already? All right, let's do the ones that are not. Let's go back to today. Ones that are not already ranked by Reddit. All right, so this one, they want to know, am I the asshole for not wanting to follow my sister-in-law's rules for her wedding and saying her insecurities aren't my fault? So the poster is a 27-year-old female, her brother, who's a 34-year-old male, and his fiance, who's a 31-year-old female, are getting married soon. My husband and I got our invitation, all fine. However, this is the problem I'm having with them. I'm not a bridesmaid in the bridal party because I have a baby and she's very young, 4 months now. And I was either pregnant or with a newborn during most of the wedding planning. It was for the best. So I'm just a regular guest as everyone else, right? Well, my brother and his fiance came over a few days after they sent the invitations because they wanted to talk to me. My father's sister-in-law, I think, right? Would FSIL be father sister-in-law? Something. What do you guys think FSIL means? Former sister-in-law? Last year our brother got married, and my FSIL thinks that she doesn't want to risk having me show up, similarly to their wedding. By the way, I wasn't wearing an inappropriate dress or white, anything like that. I was wearing a normal formal dress. I was very confused by this, and I asked what she meant, because, as I said, I know how to dress up for a wedding. I reassured her she shouldn't worry about being outshined, because for starters, it's her wedding day, and everyone will be paying attention to the bride and groom. And secondly, I won't wear an inappropriate dress with like too much cleavage or something. Her family's rather conservative, so I thought maybe she was more scared of her family's reactions. We discussed this for a while, and she told me that the problem is my weight. Oh, okay. She's a little overweight and I'm not. I've always had problems gaining weight, even while pregnant. So she feels insecure, and that's why she wants me to wear a dress that would cover me completely. This is where I think I might be the asshole. I told her that her insecurities were not my problem, and that it was weird to ask me to wear a certain dress just because I'm skinnier than her. She told me that she knew I'd have this reaction because, supposedly, and let's get Erica in here. So Erica, let me read out this story. We'll get your opinion on it. Let me make sure we can hear you, though. Can you say something?
Hello.
Okay, hi, Erica. I can hear you. Everyone in the chat say hi to Erica. Have you been able to hear this story reading up so far while you're waiting?
Nope.
Okay, well, sister-in-law, someone's getting married. The girl writing this, the bride-to-be, says, hey, I'm concerned about the dress you're going to wear. And then finally comes out and says, it's because I'm insecure and you're skinnier than me. So we're getting to the reaction where the girl writing this, who's skinny, she's like, I think I was the asshole at this one point because I told her insecurities are not my problem. And then it was weird to ask me to wear a certain dress just because I'm skinnier than her. And she goes, she knew that I'd have this reaction because supposedly I always want to be the focus of attention. She always said that my life has always been easier and it's not fair that I want to, quote, steal her wedding day as well. I asked her if she was doing this with every other woman who was skinnier attending the wedding, and she said no, so I told her that it's a shitty move. We argued, and then my husband and brother got in between us, so they argued as well, and finally we kicked them out, but not before I told them to enjoy their damn day because I wasn't attending the wedding, for which they accused me of being a drama queen and wanting to embarrass them by not going. Well, I'm more calm, and this has caused quite a fight in our family as well. I admit that I was so tired and stressed that day because my baby had been sick all day the night before. So I don't know. Do you think I over-exaggerated here? Or were they truly rude to ask me something like this? So now we get to decide, is the person writing this post an asshole for being mad? What do you guys think?
I say no.
Okay, and Belle. Thank you, Belle. So Belle's saying that FSIL means future sister-in-law. I said formal. But
I can't see the chat or anything, so
okay, so you have a StreamYard window open?
I think I see it now. Yes.
Yeah, it's going to be in a tab on the right side, and hit the comments one. The private chat is just if you need to say something to me,
Oh,
for me to see or know. But comments will be everything that's happening on YouTube there.
okay, I got you.
Yeah. And then, so personally, I don't know. I know one of my best friends has trouble gaining weight, and like, it's like one of my friends that I used to go out with a lot, right? So, when the club lets out, everybody's going back to the parking lot. People are yelling things at you as you're walking by. And people would constantly, and I mean a lot, yell at her to eat a cheeseburger. It was always a cheeseburger. Sometimes they'd be like, hey, let me buy you some food, skinny. And they'd like say things like that to her because she was just really slim. And people had no qualms or reservations about pointing out that she was skinny. And she would always say things like, just because I'm skinny doesn't mean I'm not insecure about my weight. And so I've always had that in the back of my mind when I hear stories like this. Like, I feel like I'm picturing my friend in the poster's shoes and having someone tell her, I don't want you wearing a certain dress to my wedding because you're too skinny. And I know my friend is like the nicest person in the world. So I'm inclined to say that the person writing this is not the asshole. Just my take. Eliza says, no, she's not the asshole. And then we've got Ardal saying hi to Erica. And I don't know. Would you guys tell someone to watch their dress and what they wore to your wedding because of their weight? Or would you just let them choose what they want to wear as long as it fit your color theme or whatever?
So, like, I'm trying to figure. So, is she just going to the wedding, or is she actually in the wedding?
So she says she's just supposed to be a guest at the wedding. She's not even in the bridal party. She's just supposed to be a regular guest.
Yeah, I'm totally on her side then, because I'm like, it makes no sense.
Yeah, because I'm not like buying your bridesmaid dress or anything. Like, I don't really, if you're wearing a bridesmaid dress, there's some things that might be predetermined already. But
That's ridiculous.
do you think she's an asshole for deciding she's not going to go at all?
No,
I wouldn't go if somebody tried to tell me what to wear to a wedding that I'm not even in.
Right?
I'm like,
So Tracker agrees.
Like, is she supposed to like be like Big Mama's house or something, or Mrs. Doubtful? I'm like, what are you supposed to wear to make you look bigger?
I don't know. The original poster kind of makes it seem like the girl's over-exaggerate. Like, the girl has an insecurity problem. Like, it's not even based in a real perception. Like, because she mentioned she's a little bit, I'm skinnier than her, but not by much. So it seems like pure insecurity. And what age? So 31. So the bride-to-be, the future sister-in-law, is 31. And I feel like I've had moments of, I probably still get insecure about things randomly, right? But insecurity where you're fighting about what someone can wear, what your friends can look like when you're somewhere together, I feel like that needs to be resolved before you're in your 30s. I feel like that's something that needs to end when you turn 16, 17, and you're getting out of your teenage years. So this bride-to-be is well into adulthood. She's a young adult entering middle age and still telling
Yeah,
someone, don't wear this because you're skinnier than me.
yeah, that's pretty weird.
So it's Eliza says, not like she was going to pull up in a mankini.
Yeah.
And
I'm
then
like,
Erica,
insane.
I'll say, do you have any thoughts on Fani and Nathan and that you want to circle back to?
What I was gonna say is I don't know about anyone else that caught it near the end of the testimony. It's been pushed out, I think, until next Friday again. But he, Wade's law partner that was testifying today was in communication with several of those attorneys that were questioning him. He had been texting them. They had talked on the phone, all
Okay,
discussing,
what?
all discussing Fani and Wade's relationship. They were basically gossiping. So the reason why they came so hard at him is because they wanted to get around the privilege, because they know he knows things. They know he knows things because they all were talking.
But
I
people are
think the
messy.
the context to that is that they're all lawyers in Georgia, and they knew when they were going to get they knew that they were already on the case and what that meant for them, right? Because these are the same lawyers that said, hey, there's a conflict, right? And brought it to the court
Correct.
for this hearing. So they were basically putting out feelers to see, how much information can we get before we bring this to court and say that there's a conflict. So it's not necessarily like they're just gossiping just for the sake of gossiping. They were
looking.
they were looking for like a smoking gun, so to say. And like you could see him say today, yeah, in one of the communications, I believe I said,
Well,
yeah, I'm on a plane back from Dubai.
It was so messy, Katt. I couldn't even believe it. It was so messy. Wade's attorney was literally there saying, Wade has not waived his right to privilege, so therefore you can't, discuss these things, from as a witness. But they already know certain things because they were all chit-chatting. They mentioned a group chat. They mentioned individual texts between individual people. And they mentioned phone calls. And you're right. There was a call while he was flying in from Dubai where he was talking to one of those attorneys. So, yeah.
That's just a bad look. It's messy, but it's also like just on a pure friendship level. Like that's messy on a friendship level, regardless of the attorney side of it.
But I'll put it, it's not necessarily about friends. It's about.
I'm sorry. I was saying it was because Wade and Terrence are no longer friends. They basically ended their professional relationship and were considered themselves no longer friends. And then they brought up near the end of the testimony the reason why Terrence is no longer with the firm. And it's because of some allegations against him.
This is crazy to me. It reminds me of when you hear of like a reunion and everyone, because like everyone's brought back to the same room, right? You're in a courtroom. So it's reminding me of like a TV show reunion. Like a recent example was the Martin Show, where you're all just like forced to be around each other and like everyone's waiting. Like, I don't want to like spill laundry, but as soon as someone else does it, now the floodgates are open and everyone's up there chatting. Because like Yurdi kind of looked like she was ready to spill the tea too, and she was just someone, she didn't work all that long at the district attorney's office. That the issue there was really like a friendship falling out, not even like a employment type thing.
Same thing with Terrence and Wade. It was
a friendship
falling out and also a professional falling out. because of some accusations against Terrence.
But
So
That's
it's
crazy.
all
I didn't know that happened today.
but to
That's what I'm saying. The whole thing was just messy.
And it sucks because, like, I'm on one hand, I'm like, this is entertainment. Like, there's so much, like, watching attorneys fight, because you have an attorney on the witness stand, you have attorneys, different attorneys on the witness stand, arguing with attorneys that are questioning them. So there's like, we're all here, we all know each other because we've watched some type of court trial, right? So now all of us are getting to watch something where it's attorneys going head to head with each other on the stand. And it's like extra messy because of that. And then you add in all this falling out from friends, and they're coming up and spilling whatever they can spill. And then all the attorneys know each other.
I mean,
that's like a Fulton County thing too. The lead attorney always jokes about it.
Yeah, they came at him at every possible angle they could think of. That's why it was like
oh no. Hold on, wait. You have no profile picture, but you dropped out, and now I see you again. I can hear you. You're good. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hey, Erica. Can you hear me?
I'm having... Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, sweet. We hear you. You like jumped out, and then you're back.
Hello.
Just to say a second time, I can hear you, Erica. I'll chat it to you.
Okay.
There you go. So if you want to finish your thought right before you jumped out.
Well, yeah, all I was saying was that they're basically trying to run an inroads around the privilege in any way they can figure out. They also challenged whether he was actually being paid to be his attorney during his divorce. They said, we don't see any records of him paying you. Are you sure? Basically saying, are you sure you represented him, or were you all just talking like, friends, and you just doing this as a favor to your friend, representing him, in this case? It was crazy.
Oh man, now I have to watch next week when everything comes back in.
So I think is more of like a lot of these attorneys went to law school together. They see each other all the time, whether they're arguing cases with or against each other. Because when the blonde-haired woman was doing the cross-examination of the Wade's other partner yesterday, she was saying, yeah, when you were running for office, I had your pins and your buttons, and I was wearing your T-shirt.
Yeah.
And the judge was like,
Wade,
we don't need to know.
We don't need to know all that.
Yeah,
well,
she's talking about Wade. She's talking about Wade because Wade ran for judgeship in Cobb County here in Georgia.
So I'm like, all these people know each other, and it's not like they're just like here in New York. You could go to court and none of the lawyers know each other or have any affiliation, but these lawyers are very interweaving together. So all of the conversations that they're having, it wouldn't seem that off-putting for them to put out feelers or try to have these little conversations about Nathan Wade to
and adding alcohol in the mix at bar parties when the bar gets together to hang out. Oh my God, you add alcohol.
Yeah.
They're drinking in Atlanta. They're drinking in Fulton County Bar Association meetings.
But I think Nathan's biggest problem is that he couldn't separate business from personal. And I don't mean that on the surface. I mean it in the sense of, if he had actually done what you're supposed to do if you have a business, you keep your personal separate from your business. If you have a separate credit card, bank accounts, everything is separate.
Yes.
But he's paying for stuff personally with his business account, and they're saying,
yes,
well, the money came in from the government that's paying you for being a special prosecutor, goes into your business, and then you pay for stuff like it's personal. It never changes hands and goes into a personal account so that we can see that, okay, your
Separate
business
it.
paid you for your services, even if you're paying yourself. But it's a straight line from Fani Willis as the prosecutor, paying him to be the special prosecutor, and then them paying for trips and dinners and stuff like that, because I use my business card for everything. I pay for my kids' tuition. I pay for this. I pay for. You need to separate business and personal. You need another account.
They also inferred that Terrence he used Terrence's card from time to time. I mean, it's just a mess.
But it was to the same business account too, right? So it's still, everything's coming out of what was being paid to their business. And he's just making it messier by using two different persons' cards tied to the same business account.
And then you got to think about, there was 3 people in the practice, and then one person left, and there was 2 people in the practice. And then it just became 2 people sharing an office space with 2 separate practices. So it's like all of this happened within that 2018, 19 till present. So it's like, at what point were you guys partners and not partners?
Right. So what was the extent? How long has the partnership, like if their business was a partnership between them, my question is, maybe, what was it, like longer than 2 or 3 years that they had one business entity registered before they went their separate ways? Or was it less than about 2-3 years?
I think it was about 2 or 3 years, and then one person.
Because there's like a lot of leeway in that first year where you're registered as a business entity, depending on how they structured the business. And I'm assuming they're probably privy to it. You can be pretty messy in year 1.
But but I'm saying, like, it's not necessarily about whether or not. It's just the proximity of them being in business. Did you see Fani Willis come into the office and stuff like that? It's
like, why is she here? Oh, he was talking to him. They were whispering. Yeah. They start talking.
Yeah.
Because he was already representing him, it seems, before they went into partnership together.
Oh, they have been separated and dealing with a divorce since 2018. That's how long this guy has been in divorce proceedings against his wife.
And they were separated since 2015. So
see,
yeah, like yesterday he was saying this irreconcilable differences. So I consider the marriage to be over in 2015. And
to me, that's how I would see it as well.
But then they said, okay, on the affidavit that you filled out, have you been with anybody until present? They caught him in that, because it's not until the marriage is over, it's still present. He was like, oh, okay, then I have been with someone else. And then they caught him again with all right, so if you guys are separated, then what exactly is all of the other stuff that's going on there? Like,
I feel bad for him.
They're getting really dirty, Katt, because today they inferred that it was a misdemeanor offense in the state of Georgia to have an affair while you're still legally married. They brought that up today. And
guys, those are real laws and statutes people have in different states. Like, I don't think I have to deal with that in Florida, but just even though it's not typically like something that's chased and prosecuted, like, be aware that is kind of a thing somewhere, and now they're sniffing to look for it in this situation.
That's exactly what the judge said. He said, yeah, the Supreme Court has said that that's not, adultery is something that can't be prosecuted. It's on the books as a law.
So case law superseding the legislation now.
Yeah, so it's like, if it can't be prosecuted, then it can't be considered a crime.
Good to know. It's like one of those things where you hear those laws, like it's illegal to walk your alligator down the street in pajama pants. Like it's like one of those now, right? It's just like it was there at some point and now no one pays attention to it. So if you were ever to come forward and be like, there's really this law that says this and we want to charge you for it, from an adjudication, case law, precedent perspective, maybe you'll get convicted at the trial level, but everywhere else is going to be like, what are you doing? This is 2024. I almost said 2023.
Yeah, literally, we're like, this is a furtherance of a big old conspiracy, and
Oh my
yeah,
God, this is like
this
all
is
televised too. Can you imagine being like Nathan Waite's kids and like you've been dealing with your parents divorcing since 2015 and now this is all in the news and you're just like collateral damage now because your
hmm
friends are making memes about your dad at this trial. Like
yeah. I mean, it's really ugly, and it got to me. It got wo- to me. It got to me was the today was the worst day because of the fact that they know that they have someone who they are basically making squirm in the in you know
I've got to go
in
watch
the
the
chair.
afternoon. I didn't come
It
back
was
after the
awful.
lunch break and now I'm like, "Oh my God."
It was awful. It was awful because they
And they
know
knew going into
someone.
Friday, it's a weekend and
Yep.
I didn't get to look at headlines yet, but as soon as I go look at them, I'm sure it'll be exactly what I'm expecting. Some big, flashy clickbait type story from it.
Oh yeah. They know they have someone that they can try to get information from. I don't know if they will, but they are definitely trying very, very hard.
That's the
Well,
lesson. You can't tell anyone anything that you wouldn't want possibly becoming someone else's information in the future because you never know.
Yeah.
at least
Oh,
well, it's over now. I'm like the judge has to make his determination on the hearing and see, if there is some like there is a conflict or something
yeah.
happened. And I don't know, I can't
That's
remember if that's next week or
Friday.
in 2 weeks when he comes
Friday.
back with the ruling and then we
Friday.
move forward. Yeah.
That's pretty quick just for 1 week. So I kind of appreciate that he's moving that along. I mean, if he picked the date himself, he probably already
Well,
knows.
what he was saying is that, he needs to he's like, I'm short on clerks. Um and courtroom reporters and things like that, and I'm not going to have people working double time and things like that. You're just going to have to be patient and give me until next Friday to make this decision or whatever, because it's just short staffed is what he said.
I don't even think he's asking for that much time to come back with a ruling to become. I know everyone wants a next day answer, right? But I think that's
Yeah,
pretty quick to come back in a week, and he's acting like, "I'm sorry if I have to take longer."
yeah. I honestly, I don't want to wait a week because
No,
I'm
everyone wants to
stressed out.
know because we all just watched it. It's
Well,
like,
I'm
when you have to
stressed
wait for
out.
a new episode to come out,
Yeah,
and you got to wait a
it is.
week.
Yeah, it is very stressful because in my mind, I'm like, I've talked with friends of mine here locally. I'm in Atlanta. I'm talked to friends locally, and I'm like, if they put this case back in the pot and reassign it, who knows
Yeah,
what
where it could go to, who would
where
be
it
the
could
next
go,
judge or
and
prosecutor.
they could decide there's no merit, or they could leave it sitting, or because
Well, in any case, it would kind of start the clock. Like it would be
oh yeah,
such
it
a
absolutely
waiting
starts the clock
game.
over. It absolutely starts the clock over, and they could wait a year, 2 years. They literally can leave it there.
That's trouble. I would say I do have
Big.
a am I the asshole that I think is relevant? Not relevant to the case, but going back to the point of this is Fulton County and these chatty attorneys that all know each other, they get a little liquor in them. We do
Yeah.
have an Am I the Asshole about, it's called Am I the Asshole for Demanding My House Guest Pay Me for What She Drank? So we're going to
Ooh.
read this story about someone wanting money for drinks that they drank off someone else's dime, which kind of reminds me of what we're debating in this trial at a very broad level. One of them's going to be a wine person, one of them's going to be a Grey Goose person. So the writer is a 29-year-old female, was asked by her 27-year-old female friend that I went to university with if she could stay a few days at my place on her vacation. Sounds like someone's trying to save money, right? Couch surfing or whatever they call it. She came a couple days ago and also brought her sister, who's 31, which was fine with me. Her sister declined going out for dinner with us and wanted to stay in. That was fine, and we left and went to eat. Well, turns out her sister is a recovering alcoholic and wasn't coping that well being in a different place. This took a turn instantly. We come home a few hours later and I find out she got drink on my radar, and raided, I think it's a typo, and raided my liquor cabinet for what she could find. She ended up drinking my very expensive gin, which was $300 US. That was given to me by my dad. It's not something I ever would have offered guests. When she woke up the next morning, I told her that she needed to pay me for it. I didn't even open it. She started freaking out, saying it was a mistake and that she couldn't afford the rest of her trip if that's what it really costs. I told her that she technically stole it from me and that she needed to pay me for it. My friend from uni says that her sister's struggling in recovery, but they really can't afford to compensate me without it ruining their trip. I asked them to leave, and they were both very upset about it. While I do understand that it was a moment of weakness, I still think she needs to pay me for it. If she broke it by accident, that would be a different story. Am I the asshole for wanting her to give me the money for it? What do you guys think?
I say absolutely not. I'm like, she's saying I have the money, but I want to have fun. And
I'm already staying at your couch to save money, which is cool. But what other money do you have for your trip? You're going exactly what I'm thinking.
Yeah, you're saying you have the money, but I won't have fun if you had fun. You actually, this was my fun. You took my fun away. Reimburse me for your fun.
Do you think the friend who brought the sister with her, like, do you think the friend has more accountability here if you're the one that invited your sister to come here also?
I think the friend is accountable in the sense of if she's like a recovering addict or what have you, you should have told me. I could have locked it up. I could have hid it away, something, so that if I'm leaving her alone, or we could have taken her out so that she wouldn't have access to liquor and be alone. The certain things certain conversations should have been had so that this could have been prevented.
Mm-hmm.
And Erica, what would you say if you just came home and found your $300 bottle was drunken, completely drank?
I mean, it's kind of a, well, it has a bit of sentimental value to her, correct?
From the dad, yeah, it was from her dad.
Yeah, so there's no unringing that bell. I think it's just a lesson learned. I would see if she could give me the money back, but it's you can't unring the bell. It's over. You're not coming back. It's a lesson learned. First time is shame on me, right?
Very true. That sucks though. Like,
yeah.
But what was their vacation gonna be like? I'm all for the idea. I understand, Airbnbs are crazy to rent. There's like horror stories about them. They're not even that much cheaper anymore. Hotels can be booked out or in faraway locations. So like the idea of staying at someone's house to save money doesn't just mean your vacation's ruined from the start. But it sounds like in this situation, they didn't even have money for the trip. Like they were staying on the couch because they didn't have the money otherwise, not just to save money, but because it was the only way that this trip would be possible.
Yeah.
And then they came in and also drank the alcohol.
Yeah, it's pretty clear she's not getting that money. So you know your friends, you know what you're dealing with. If something like that happened, you're not getting that money. It's gonna have to just be a lesson learned. I would have just said, okay, well, I need you guys to go, and that's it. Number is blocked.
The door is locked. And, I guess the one silver lining is, I feel like it's probably a good chance, recovering alcoholic. You probably really only were looking for alcohol. So at least there's nothing else alleged here. Other stuff went missing or other stuff was messed with. At least I'm grateful you beelined it to the liquor and didn't go and try to steal other things or maybe I didn't even want to drink. Sometimes expensive liquor is nasty. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I'll be relieved in a few years when I realize, well, good thing I didn't need to drink whatever that was.
Yeah.
But I
That's
think
true.
it's to the point that she got hit with the 2-for-1. It was the friend is coming, and then but she showed up with the sister,
Right.
and it was like, okay, it's okay. I have the room for the extra person, but then this happened. So it's like
Yeah, you gotta go.
you can't just show up with an extra person and then not tell me the baggage that comes with the extra person.
Yep.
Well, and then it's like the sister said it says that the sister declined going out, but there's no
Yeah.
mention that the friend wanted, like, no, come on, come out with us. It's the first night where you get to hang out with my friend. You know, maybe they did, and it's just not being told in this story here, right? We just don't know the details. But if it's one of those situations where you show up with your sister and we're trying to go somewhere, and you know, maybe the sister feels sick, you have a migraine or whatever, and you want to just call it, I'm sorry, I just want to stay home this one time, I'll go out with you guys tomorrow. If there was no like protesting from the friend to be like, no, sister, come with us, come with us, that's kind of a signal that the friend knows, like, I don't want to deal with my sister coming out because she's going to order drinks and maybe I'm going to have to pay for them, and it'll just be easier if we dump her here on this couch. So like, based on the context, the limited context, it could be the friend didn't even try to put up a fight and bring the sister out to the dinner with them. She knew it was a problem. It would be easier for her to just sit in someone else's house while she went out without her. So the friend definitely seems aware and didn't want to warn the friend who she was staying with, the host.
I'm
Yeah.
like, you're talking
Kinda,
about like to go out with. I'm saying like she didn't even warn her that she was coming.
they're coming at all, yeah.
So I'm like,
At all.
if she
At
had
all.
told her I'm bringing my sister, she would have. Oh, so how is your sister been? Or so, and it might have got into the conversation of, well, you know, she's been in rehab or something. Nothing. There's no chance for that to even come up. So it was very much hidden, and it was after the fact. Well, you know, after she's already drunk it, and she is recovering addict, and you know, if we do pay for it, then it'll ruin our trip. And but yet, if we leave now, we will have a place to stay with said money that we owe you, and we're not trying to set up
We
a
could have
feud.
avoided that by just trying to come up with a compromise, or say, hey, can we like work something out with you now? That way we can pay you over time. And maybe that wouldn't pan out, right? You know, people bail on IOUs all the time, but at
Yeah.
least you're making the effort to, instead of just saying, me, my trip's going to be ruined if I have to pay for it, you should at least put forth a compromise like, hey, like, you're being so nice letting us stay here, especially if you're still willing to let us sleep here. We can give you the cash for it because we won't have to go stay somewhere else. But we understand if you don't want us staying here another night and preventing that happening again. But can we work something out? Because if I have to add a hotel that I wasn't planning on paying for, I'm going to be strapped on this $300 amount, and maybe I can give you $100 right now and, you know, $200 next month when I'm home and get my paychecks again. You know what I mean? But if that wasn't even offered, and maybe it was and we just don't have the context here, but if that wasn't even offered, it's like an ego blow, right? The friend is just like, don't ruin my vacation. I just expected you to take care of someone I knew could have had a problem.
Mhm.
And now I'm putting it on you to think you're the asshole for having a problem with someone drinking your $300 bottle without asking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, who
Yeah.
knows? Like, if they didn't leave, I'm like, who knows what else she's not telling her, and she comes home
Yeah.
another time and something else has happened.
I hate filling in the blanks for other people, but to me, you know, when you have friends, these are the kind of things that you talk about. If you
Especially
got
friends from university. Like, you guys probably drank together in university. It should be understandable now if alcohol is going to be in the picture while you're staying here for any reason.
yeah, those are things that you should talk about, or especially if you're bringing someone with you.
I'll say, I love these, like, am I the asshole type stories, because I don't know, there's like so many things that you can like pull out of them, even if it's limited context. Like, better
Yeah.
etiquette for when you want to crash at a friend's house, things you should talk about beforehand. Yeah, because sometimes you don't think of everything you should do until there's hindsight, right? I
Yeah.
might not think to, hey, I would always remember if I'm going to bring someone with me, I'd always think ahead to ask. But
Yeah.
you know, maybe I didn't know that my sister even had an alcohol problem. So there wouldn't have been information for me to think to even tell someone else because I didn't know. But now I'd be like, okay, if I'm ever in this situation, I got to preempt this. Even if money's tight, I can't just bark at my friend that I'm staying with and be like, oh, you're going to ruin my trip. No, you've got to solve that. You've got to make it up to them. Even if you can't put up $300 right away, like, offer something just for the sake of it. Is that way you can give the choice to the friend to make them feel better and give them the chance to forgive and solve the situation.
Yep.
Rather than give them only one option when you're the one that started the problem or could have prevented it at least. So
it's definitely she didn't do it. She's not the person that did it, but she definitely is. She holds responsibility to me because of the fact that she brought her sister with her without discussing it. So I hold all of it, in your lap to basically deal with the situation. You owe me, and you and your sister work out the details later. However, I'm just by nature, I'm one of those type of people that kind of look at a situation like that. I would be smiling and saying, oh, okay, well, don't worry about it, blah, blah, blah. But then you would never, ever, ever be able to find me again. That's just me.
or literally
You
anytime.
are
If we were
cut
friends for a
off.
long time, anytime you hit me up, I'm like, is your sister coming? Where's your sister? Your sister's not coming, is she? Like, if we're good friends and we're still going to continue to be friends, we'd probably have to resolve the way you just decided that you're not going to pay me. We'd have to squash that part. But if we've
I
been
would
good
be on
friends,
the,
I'd always ask about your sister now.
I would be on the side of the like the author, the writer of the story, because if you watch any of these like People's Court or small claims, they always want to upcharge for the sentimental value. Like, and I'm like, she's just saying face value, this is how much this bottle cost. Not, I want you to pay for that and the pain and suffering of the sentimental value. She's not even saying that.
Yep.
Yeah, because
I think you're getting off easy. The friend is being very compromised in how she's addressing this with you. The original poster is being very compromising in, hey, just pay me back for it. Erica's like, I'm done. I'm never talking to that girl again.
Yeah, that's so not okay to invite. But I don't know. I'm kind of like very I guess because I'm a bit of an introvert. I can't even believe I'm on this live right now, but I'm a bit of an introvert. So me allowing you in my space is one thing. You inviting someone else into my space is a whole nother thing. And then that person violating my space, it doesn't process.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I just can't.
I agree. Well, Erica, because you don't have a YouTube channel that you actually like. You don't. You're on here. You participate, but you're not like growing a channel or anything, right? Well, if you ever do, let me know because I'll share your links. But I think I love these am I the asshole? I don't know what I was going to say, but I love these am I the asshole conversations and like the 2 hot takes, those type of things. So if you ever want to break through this on a Friday night or any night, you're always welcome to come up and chat about it. Same thing with you, JT. And JT, again, let me get your link and drop it again. If you guys want to subscribe to JT, who actually is doing a channel, that link will be in the live chat. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? Let's round this out because I want to go eat something. But if you guys ever want to do a topic roulette, you guys are welcome to join anytime. Same thing with any of you guys in the chat. You guys are welcome to join anytime.
Okay. Big fan of the channel, and since I've started my channel, one of like the YouTube shorts I've done is was like Molyneux evidence and hearing, which is like the biggest video on there, and that was after watching your channel and reading through all of those.
Sweet. So Jonathan Majors content over on JT Moore's channel, which is just dropped in the chat. I'll have to go back and put it on like a static comment after the fact too. And speaking of Jonathan Majors, I did finish my case law, looking at different appeals court rulings as it relates to the self-defense justification charge and what the Chaudhry law firm is putting forward in the motion to set aside the verdict. They'll probably make the same argument on appeal, but there's a lot of precedent. There's a lot of binding case law about how the court in the Jonathan Majors trial should have read the justification to the jury for them to decide on those reckless charges that he was convicted of. And they didn't, and that there's plenty of case law that is in fact reversible error. So I'm going to get that video published, but
it's almost it's not necessarily double jeopardy, but they're charging him twice for the same.
It's a charge down issue.
Yeah,
it's a charge down issue. Yep.
So it's there was no. I'll say this much: he was acquitted of the right set of charges. Because if
it went the other way, it would have been even less sense, right? They say, oh, he did have intent. That would have made more sense with what the prosecution at least tried to argue at trial, because they never came out and said he didn't mean to.
Now.
I agree. There's a lot of case law, and some of the case law that relates to how the jury should have been told about self-defense, justification as a defense, also involves an overlap of these other issues where the appeal decisions, the trial case underlying those is a situation where, hey, these inconsistent charges were also made. So there was an intentional charge and a reckless charge. And in the appeal case where this precedent is coming from, the jury acquitted on the intentional stuff, but found guilty on the reckless stuff. And they weren't given the self-defense justification charge as something to consider while they were deliberating, and that was reversible error. So there's a lot of the grounds of what the Chaudhry law firm put in that motion to set aside the verdict. I mean, there's case law for the whole overlap of all of it. So the inconsistent charging, the lack of evidence of anything being reckless at all, because the only testimony from Grace Jabari was always, he was trying to make me feel pain, intentional. Right. There's nothing on the record that suggests reckless actions. And then again, that the jury should have been instructed that, hey, if you think Jonathan Majors was acting, if he was justified in doing this because criminal mischief was happening, someone was trying to take his personal property, if you think he reasonably believed that someone was committing criminal mischief against him, then you need to find him not guilty. They should have been read this charge. That's the court's error. So it's great to look at this case law. So that I was going to publish that tonight, but then when I saw that YSL Nicole thing, or one of the YSL, she's not involved in the RICO, but she represented someone that I think took a plea deal and isn't part of the ongoing YSL RICO trial. She was arrested on gang charges. I was like, well, let me just do a live chat and see if people want to talk. But really, anytime if you guys want to do going over things like Am I the Asshole, or going over what happened for the week, the hot topics, totally down to do it all the time. I have fun doing it. And I appreciate you guys coming up here so I'm not the only face talking to myself.
That's fun. You.
That Courtney case that you're covering is a monster in and of itself.
I didn't want to be interested in it, and then I'm like, oh, it's transparent. It's fine. I don't need to talk about it because it's going to be live streamed. And then I'm like, oh, the defense attorneys are alleging that they're being put under a gag order, and I'm like, now I got to look. And I favor the prosecution more in that trial. And I'm not really pro prosecution. I try to be extra critical of them. But in the Clenney trial, it's the defense that I'm like, stop.
I'm like, I watched the TMZ thing. I was like, I've never seen such biased journalism. I was like, they're just leaving out so much. They're like, the mother told her to call 911. You're not mentioning that she's
the whole timeline
with her while this is happening. Like, yeah, she told her to do it, but there's like 10 minutes or 15 minutes.
Yeah, it was Newsweek that published a demonstrative. If you don't want to dig through the bond hearing from November 2022, the Miami-Dade District Attorney's Office had a demonstrative of the timeline of like Christian Novoselic goes out to get Subway sandwiches. He comes back. Courtney's on Instagram Live. They get in an argument. She's on the phone with her mom. She hangs up. She calls mom back. She calls 911, calls 911 again. They lay out the whole timeline. And it's like the TMZ interview, what JT Moore's getting at is TMZ comes along and just says, or I think it was they show the mom saying, "Why? I don't know what was being said. I was just a lot of noise, but I know something was happening, and I just told her I understood that there was some type of injury that happened, and I just told her you have to call 911." So that's like the mom speaking in this interview she gives with TMZ. In the beginning of January, it was recorded. So it's before she gets arrested with the charges for the laptop, right? So like a lot of juicy stuff going on in the trial in general that involves the defense counsel and the family. Not even, personally, I think Courtney Clenney's best chance would be to get another defense team, start over, and maybe go the route of, fight the mea culpa. Admit, yes, I killed him, but I was in a different state of mind, and I didn't have.
It's too late.
Can't be culpable. It is too late. It is way too late.
Like, when she said, I flung it, and that is the defense. It's been that way for the past 2 years or a year and a half. You can't unring that bell because you come to court and we're going to say she said she flung it. Now she's saying she flung it in self-defense. I don't know how you could fling something like that. Did you run away afterwards? Like how there's no way a kitchen knife that heavy can be flung. It's not a dart, like at a dartboard.
Well, according to the defense attorney, guys, he said people in Texas use the word fling to mean throw as hard as you can. That TMZ interview was just...
Yeah, we're talking about like if you fling a switchblade, if you fling a dart, this is a 10-inch kitchen knife.
Yeah.
You can't fling it and it like really go 3 inches deep into him as it did. Like,
yeah, guys, watch. I think it should be on Hulu now if you want to watch the whole thing in full. I chopped it up with commentary on my channel, so it ends up being about the length of the full episode. However, TMZ seemed to want to give Taylor Lorenz, if you're familiar with her, she's a culture reporter who a lot of contentious issues about her bias against creators, other people that are trying to cover court cases, things like that. They gave her a platform, and she spent like 15 minutes of this TMZ interview. It's an hour, but it's like 42 minutes after commercials. And like over 10 minutes of that was Taylor Lorenz talking about Kim Kardashian. So, if you want to skip that noise, you can watch me chopping up on my channel, but the whole thing in full should be available on Hulu now. Did you notice that, JT, or did you watch the full thing, or did you watch it chopped up in bits?
I watched the full thing.
And you saw what I'm talking about. They kept bumpering the ad breaks with mentions of Kim Kardashian.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Oh my gosh.
The thing I found most appalling was the elevator video, was the mother saying, well, what they're not talking about is how he has her in a headlock. And if you look at it, he has his arm around her waist, and like the camera's coming from above. So it's not a headlock. It's not around her neck or anything like that. It's around her arms are above his arms. So
I'm going to pull it up. Let me zoom in so that way it's closer, because I'm just going to pull it on my channel because I have it timestamped. But we can watch. We can watch how the mom characterizes this mess of an elevator video.
I think I watched your breakdown, Katt, because I don't know. It makes my blood boil listening to the whole thing.
Well, the other thing is
the whole thing.
I will give TMZ. Let me actually play one other thing that I do need to give TMZ credit for, because I think it destroys the entire buildup of self-defense issues. Where is this video where they said she's dancing like Austin? So I'm going to look for that. I'm scrolling through it. Yeah, and they did show, I gotta say, TMZ also showed cuts that look like clean knife cuts from a previous fight in January of 2023 that Courtney Clenney caused. So they do show that, which is something that I don't think has been published in other places. Okay, I have the let me make sure this is going to play. I'm like,
the cuts on his face, I'm like, they didn't let that in for Jonathan Majors. Hopefully they'll let it in this case.
I know.
But that's what I'm saying. I think the prosecution in this case is doing a much better job.
Well, they waited to arrest her a long while, so.
But I do think they appropriately charged her. I do think it took them pressure to, I think the detective could have put the pressure on in those initial months. But I think once the prosecution, it went to someone else's hands, they're like, okay, we've got to pick this up and get it right. But I don't think they're playing games. And I also think, you know, it's with Jonathan Majors, he's the defendant and he's trying to show injuries to debunk the prosecution's case. But the extra cuts on Christian Obumseli's face from January go to help the prosecution's case. So I'm sure they'll come in.
I think in Florida, money talks. And I think the fact that the Obumseli, they're suing the building where it all happened. And I think whoever owns that building is like,
make sure Courtney's all the blame.
Yeah, so they're putting pressure on the DA. So it's like, yeah, if she gets convicted, everything like that, then we'll be clear of any, culpability or involvement in the death.
I'll say this is going to be kind of weird because I went to my own video to find it instead of trying to pull up Hulu right now. And I will go to the elevator part where we can see how the mom tries to I'm not even going to give her a benefit of the doubt. The mom tries to reframe and completely retextualize that elevator video like we're all dumb. So I'll play that too. But this clip, not the text on the screen, but there's a clip that TMZ slips in right after here. Courtney Clenney has alleged, hey, I've been trying to break up with him. Tried to break up with him at the end of February, which is where we get the elevator video. I had my mom stay with me for all of March. And then I took her to the airport, she flew home. And that day, Christian Obumseli was hiding in my couch, stalking me. I was scared to walk my dogs. And we have this video, this body cam footage where she's in the lobby of the apartment where she lived. And she's asking the police for a restraining order against Christian Obumseli. The next day, he dies. Well, all of that kind of raises doubt, right? But then look what happens, and TMZ actually covers it. Look what happens the day that he's actually stabbed. She says that April 2nd, she's scared of him, wants to get away from him, is scared to leave her apartment. But these videos are from like an hour or two before he goes to get the sandwiches and comes back and ends up getting killed.
Well, the answer was yes. And the way it happened was just horrific.
Hey, yo, you be dancing like Austin.
So they're hanging out together.
These videos of Courtney and Christian dancing and singing.
This is like hours before he gets stabbed.
The very same day she killed him.
So if you get where I'm going with that, it was very small, and TMZ could have emphasized it more. Yeah, but this debunks the whole theory. I was being stalked and the day leading up to the killing.
Oh, absolutely.
And she left the live one that she was doing where she gets jealous about
him talking to someone else.
Yeah, while he was bike riding or something like that. So how can you say we were arguing and I felt threatened? You're the one arguing with him. So how would you feel threatened if you were the aggressor?
She tried it. I think that video of them hanging out together in the house, it just blows that all out of the water. And I can't imagine why the jury wouldn't be able to see it and maybe not that specific clip of her dancing or whatever. But if she went on Instagram Live, why would they not be able to show that? Because there's no expectation of privacy if you go live online. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So the jury is going to be able to come out and find at least one way or another that they were hanging out cordially in between this moment where she claims that she was scared and she was being stalked and she wanted a restraining order against him. And with less than 24 hours, she deals the fatal blow. So it blows it out of the water. Even if they can't show her dancing or the video of him he took of himself, they can bring up that Instagram Live. I don't see why they wouldn't be able to.
I'm like, if the lawyers really wanted to, they could say anything that happened that afternoon could be considered like a dying declaration because it's in the matter is a death. So the victim can't speak. So all that anything he said leading up to his death would be a dying declaration.
Yeah, I hope it all comes in because I think it's important too. I think especially if she's trying to claim that she wanted it, it would go against what she's saying, right? It would kind of impeach her credibility if, they're asserting, hey, I was scared of him. Well, this is less than 24 hours later, lady.
But I don't think she's going to assert anything. I don't think she'll.
I
if
don't
they're
know if she'll
smart,
take the
I don't think
stand.
she'll stand. No, I don't think she.
The only reason it'd be good for her to take the stand is if they were going for some type of like mental no culpability type of defense. But do you want to see how the parents characterize this elevator, guys? I think I'm at the right part.
He was strangling her, and she said that it was going through her mind, oh my gosh, my mom's gonna have to plan my funeral.
But what about that elevator video showing Courtney?
Now, this is the mom's characterization. So if you jumped in late and you didn't see when TMZ first talked about this elevator video. Sorry, we're listening to me. I just don't want to fast forward it too much. Courtney's mom is going to contextualize this in a very interesting way. But TMZ does show the same footage earlier, and they characterize it as self-defense for Christian Obumseli.
Courtney wailing on Christian. The Clenneys say it doesn't tell the real story.
What is not obvious, that elevator went directly to her landing to go into her apartment. And so you can see how desperate she is for him not to follow her. She's trying to push him off the elevator because she doesn't want him to come in. And you can see he's like a rock, her trying to push him out, and she can't push him out. And I think the people who've shown that video do tend to cut out the part where he has her in a headlock.
Why does it matter if someone's put in a headlock after they were being hit? And then I want to point out, so everyone that watched the preview yesterday pointed out that part right there. Watch her hand with the door of the elevator. Sorry, it's so hard to scrub the timeline on this.
To go into her apartment. And so you can see how desperate
you guys all pointed that out. She's holding the door open while the mom's saying, desperate not to follow.
Yeah.
She was so desperate to get rid of him, she held the door for him.
And even if you could argue, like, oh, maybe it was just instinct, you do that whenever you go in the elevator, she does not look like she's pushing him out. She just is connecting hands with him. I'm going to mute it so we can just look at the footage without hearing me blabber over it. But her body motion doesn't even look like she wants him out of the elevator. She just wants to hit him.
She's just
because if she really wanted to, the elevator hadn't closed yet. She could press door open and she could get out and escape from him. But it's not like he's blocking her from exiting the elevator. She just wants to hit him.
Yeah, she's just fighting him.
And he looks like he's used to this, honestly. Like, I get, just from, like, obviously it's short, but I get the impression that he's just like, here we go again.
Well, yeah, we see that that's a routine from the Colorado video.
So I don't know. That's a case that I didn't think I'd be interested in, but the way that it's being framed, and it's the public game that the defense is playing. It's not because of the prosecution, which is normally where my red flags go off, and I'm like, hey, I gotta uncover something that doesn't make sense. It's the defense kind of harping on things that I think are just burying their head in the sand. It's making them look worse. Forget the whole, and now they're affiliated with some attempt to get access to Christian Obumseli's laptop. So I don't think that investigation is over. I don't think we've heard the last of that. I think we're going to hear more about that, and we're going to hear possible other stuff come forward about maybe the attorney involvement being, crossing the line. That's just my own speculation. The defense did try to ask at a motion hearing, like, are you guys wiretapping our phones? And the prosecution was like, no, we've subpoenaed the mom's iCloud, but right now we're not wiretapping anyone's phones. So it's probably an honest answer, but that doesn't mean that there isn't investigation still ongoing, right? So I'm waiting to see what happens there. And it could be a blessing for Clenney if her attorneys have to recuse themselves. Someone else could come in and offer another defense. May not change the outcome, but
recuse themselves, then I'm like, could they end up giving testimony in the trial?
They crossed the line to me with the laptop. So
it's messy. And to be fair, I think that everyone should have an adequate representation. It doesn't mean that I think she should be found not guilty. I'm just saying her attorney is going to get her found guilty, even if there was a slim chance that she didn't do. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. The defense is so bad that it's creating a small bit of sympathy. And again, I do think that they should have at least tried to argue some type of culpability rather than just a pure self-defense justification. Say I wasn't culpable in the moment because I was like out of mind, out of body. Like, which I think a jury could kind of see from her behavior. But
Look,
maybe
if
the
you say
defense didn't know that.
self-defense, I could understand it if
Self-defense
was,
is kind of a rational or instinctual choice rather than I'm not culpable for the decision to defend myself.
but if you're saying that you flung it, I'm like, why is there a need to make it?
Because there's distance, right?
Yeah, I'm like, why? I don't know why she needs to tell that. It's going to show, you're going to bring a medical examiner or coroner up, and they're going to say, this happened at this proximity, and if you threw it, it was going to come straight at him. Whatever her height is, it's going to come down or going to come up. It's not going to be straight in, like as if you throw something, like if you're throwing a dart at a dartboard. Like it's,
they're going to bring in one expert with no cover letter. He's never been an expert witness. He's never testified before, but he's a knife throwing expert, and they're trying to get him admitted so they can show this demonstrative where he flung a knife at a pig carcass. So that's another thing I'm excited to see if that comes in, because that's kind of, you can get all that in, but the jury can decide if they think it matters or not.
But you got to think about that. That's stationary. Like if a person is moving, you're throwing this at them.
And it's a knife thrower. A knife thrower. I mean, maybe Courtney Clenney does have experience. We know she's at least used a knife on it. To me, the other prior cuts, guys, it's a clean cut. It's on my Twitter or my X. It's like blocked out. You have to go past the sensitivity things to actually see it. But it's a clean cut. It's not like there was a punch and the skin split open, or it was like something jagged that just happened to puncture his skin. It's a clean cut, which to me suggests knife to the face.
Knife to the face,
She cut his face. Like, it's gushing. It's gross. So maybe we can say she's experienced with knives. But in that case, it's an up-close slice. She has sliced him, not flung a knife at him before. She's actually up against his face with a knife in her hand, sliced his face. So you get what I'm saying? There's a proclivity on her part to use a knife on him.
To use knives. I don't know if y'all ever seen the movie. Every time I picture her throwing this knife, I picture the movie, the James Bond movie, Octopussy. Have you ever seen it?
No. Oh my God, no, but I would totally go back and watch that.
It's a situation where there's like these twin brothers, these brothers that are in a circus, and they're knife throwers, and they're like throwing these knives through the woods. I mean, it's just so it is.
Hold on, wait, I think I have it.
They're these experts that know how to throw knives, and they're nailing people from I don't know how far away, but it's like they're these. I'm picturing her saying, "Oh, I just threw the knife, and it just so happened to land this," and I'm like, "Okay, so yeah, right."
Hold on, is this it?
Can you see it? The brothers in Octopussy.
Yes,
And then in the movie, they're like also killers, so they're like chasing people through the woods and throwing.
And they just keep doing it. That must be the experience she has for this to be believable.
Right. That's my whole point.
It's like the idea of throwing it shows that, I guess maybe you could argue, and I think Blue Queen TV pointed the same thing out. You know, if she says like, oh, he was about to run at her, so she threw it at him, she had the perception, right? Because self-defense can come down to a reasonable belief rather than what was factually occurring in the moment. It could switch in any instant. But if the jury believes there was a reasonable belief in that moment, they believe that Courtney reasonably believed Christian was running at her to physically harm her, that would be the one case. And that's like what Blue Queen is pointing out here. Mm-hmm. But then the flip side of that is us, like, we're all sitting here, and if we watched that and we were being told that, we'd be like, well, if you had to throw it, he's far away from you. He's not at you.
Correct.
So my legal question would be reasonable, right? We've shown that she's not reasonable. So if we're saying that she thinks that she's mad at him for talking to somebody who he's bike riding, oh, you're trying to, flirt or pick somebody up, or anytime he speaks to another female, and she's all possessive and everything like that. So she has a warped sense of everything. So he could be walking towards her. She feels as though it's a threat, but it's not a reasonable threat to anybody else other than her.
Yeah.
Then we can't grade her on her level of perception. We have to grade her on everybody else's level of perception.
No, I agree.
Because we got to look at then what happened after that happened. Did she immediately call 911? No, her first call was to her mother.
To call her mom back. So she was already talking to her mom, and the mom was like, what's going on? And she's like, I gotta call my mom back first. I mean, like, at that moment in time, you have your phone in your hand. It's not like you're not near a phone to call 911. You clearly could call 911 if that was what you chose to do in that exact moment.
Right.
And if I was the prosecution, I would say, all right, so this goes to show you that she's continuing the crime by a cover-up. And if you say, well, how can you say that's a cover-up? Then you go into the whole computer thing, because they're conspiring to continue to cover up and show that there's a conspiracy in the aftermath. We can say that, it's not necessarily about the crime that actually occurred, but the cover-up, which actually shows that there was intent in there being a crime by the way that you're covering it up. You're not.
They don't need to prove intent for the killing.
Yeah.
They just need to, the defense, by asserting they're doing an affirmative defense of self-defense. And I don't know the exactly Florida statute on it, but it's going to be the burden of proof shifts a little
Florida,
bit.
It's like stand your ground, more or less.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they have to, the preponderance of evidence burden should be on once the affirmative defense is laid, it's the preponderance of evidence. The burden is on the defense to convince the jury upon preponderance of the evidence that self-defense is justified for this situation. So I don't know the exact balance of probability that according to Florida statute, but it shifts a little bit. And the prosecution doesn't need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt intent, because it's not part of their charge. The charge is a second-degree murder with a weapon, no intent. So,
but I'm saying, Courtney Clenney is the only one who's
the only witness in that moment who's alive, and the mom, I guess, kind of audibly, audio-wise.
Yeah, so I'm saying they actually have to build up a case to go against her shadow, or whatever.
Well, I think all they got to do is she's either not going to testify, which means we don't have testimony from her. We'll only have theory asserted by the defense team and any expert that can say something about the knife throwing, or detectives on what the scene looked like, right? The only evidence about what happened in that moment will come from non-present witnesses. Or she takes a stand, in which case all the prosecution needs to do is say, hey, she's the only one with firsthand account of what happened in those moments. But if we look at everything surrounding those moments, you'll see that her story of fearing for her life and needing a restraining order was a lie.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see that in other moments, she attacked him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to consider what happened in that moment, we know that in those other moments, she had no self-defense justification for slashing him in the face with a knife. So how can you find her credible in this moment where she's the only witness to? So if the jury, right, to me, that's all you kind of have to do is just dismantle, if she even takes a stand, just dismantle any credibility relating to anyone that can give us a statement on what Courtney Clenney said. So, the detective, if he takes a stand, they will get some bits and pieces of things that Courtney signed on a statement while working with the detective or whatever. But if that's the only thing and it's all still coming back from Courtney, all you got to say is there's prior situations where she's used a knife on him and it wasn't reasonable and she's not credible.
Let alone that, you could say, if I'm the prosecution, if she takes a stand, I would say, talk about the recording with the N-word, right? And then you have the mother saying, well, she said this. And if you actually get Courtney Clenney herself,
the problem with that?
To say that she said it to get him to leave, right? Okay, the mother says, well, it didn't work. Well, what?
Well, here's the other issue with that. There's a bigger issue to that. I believe they could have excluded that specific audio. That doesn't mean that it wasn't said somewhere else. But I believe the defense could have made an argument to exclude that video by expectation of privacy if they were the only two there and it was recorded secretly by Christian. But then it's in an interview that the defense team is a part of. So now the whole public knows about it. There's a difference. There's going to have to be a different argument to argue why it shouldn't be allowed at trial. if it's something that is no longer private.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's in the public. It's been published publicly. So,
Mm-hmm.
And then in the interview,
and it can
she's
be
saying that she wanted it to be
impeachment
known.
evidence. If she gets on the stand and you say, "Have you ever used the N-word against him?"
That's it.
And this can be brought in on impeachment.
And then it's only really from the mom saying, you know, she told us this is why. So they probably wouldn't they wouldn't be able to elicit from the mom what Courtney's reasoning was from. But at the same time, Courtney has spoken about this conversation to others. So it's not a private conversation.
Well, it wouldn't be hearsay if she told it to the mother and the mother is saying, "This is what she told me."
Do you think the mom's going to testify?
The mom will probably have to testify, but but Courtney doesn't have to. You won't get a shot on questioning her about her behavior, her anything she did. But the mom, the dad, all of them.
I don't think the mom or the dad will take the stand until if their case isn't fully resolved before they have to take the stand. There's no way whatever representation they have would allow them to take the stand, because who knows what.
I think they have a well-known attorney. I forget how to say his name. Ficadomo, something like that. I think they have a well-known representation now representing them once they went for booking in Miami-Dade. So I'm sure whoever's representing them is doing crossing the T's and dotting the I's to make sure, hey, if anything else, they have a reason to plead the fifth, at least for certain parts of anything they'd be questioned, which doesn't look good.
How do they isn't the only person in that situation that has the right to? I would say
it's Courtney, but
Courtney,
you know, people can try to get around subpoenas and do whatever they want to do. It'll be hard to evade a subpoena when Texas is cooperating with Miami-Dade and sending your ass there.
They're not getting away from that. They may assert their privilege. I mean, the Fifth Amendment, but if they're subpoenaed, they're subpoenaed.
No, Fifth Amendment, like they have to appear, but Fifth Amendment goes to self-incrimination. So it would be a matter of them talking about a crime that they committed. So
there'd be certain parts where they could assert Fifth Amendment to get out of having to answer, or rightfully to not incriminate themselves, right? It could be a bit of both. But they could also try to plead the fifth for certain moments to not answer a question in front of the jury to Courtney's benefit. So that will be interesting, I think. I don't think that the parents will make Courtney Clenney look good. I mean, you have the dad with all the financial, you killed someone 4 or 5 days ago. Let's just start wiring your money to me, hun. That doesn't, what juror in their right mind is going to think that looks gravy?
Because if the mother takes the stand, right, you know, you look at like the George Floyd trial where they made a big issue about the time limit that it took for stuff to happen. So if she's on a stand and you're like, okay, you heard an injury or something happen all the way up until she hung up and dialed 911. What was taking place throughout all of this time? Well, I was telling her to call 911. Oh, so she was resisting you. No. Well,
she was so erratic and unrational and unreasonable that she wouldn't listen to me. So you're catch-22. Now you got to say you're unreasonable, so she wouldn't dial 911.
But then you're on the hook for that. So now it's, why didn't you hang up if you knew that? And you can call 911 for her. There's nothing.
I think she'll argue. We saw a sneak preview in that interview. She's going to be like, I understood that something was going on, but I didn't really know what was going on. I just knew. So she's going to wiggle worm her way out of that. But at the same time, you're right. They will ask her about that. And no matter how she tries to wiggle worm herself out of it, if we see that looking funny on a TMZ interview, that's going to look funny in front of the jury from her saying that on the witness stand. And the prosecution, I mean, there's no way the prosecution hasn't seen that TMZ docuseries. They're going to know exactly how she looks answering that type of question. They're going to be able to strategize that exact line of questioning. Which is so stupid for them to be doing these interviews. Why would they do these interviews?
It's so stupid.
Well, the interviews that they did was before they were charged with the
I don't even think it matters. I
uniform.
think even if they never got charged for the laptop thing, I think it would still be a stupid decision to do this interview. Like,
I agree.
I think that the mom looks, I think they look worse than just, it's one thing for a parent to see what they see because they don't want to think their kid did something wrong, but the mom doesn't even come off like she believes her own BS when she's trying to explain that elevator video.
Well,
She seems like she's putting on a show.
I think it's a matter of they are doing it for themselves. It's not has nothing to do with the daughter. Like the daughter is like she just went off and wanted to do whatever she wanted to do, be a OnlyFans model or what have you. And they're like, we didn't even know she was doing that. So I'm like, it's a matter of them saying we're bankers,
and they had the
we're
money,
respected in the community. So we're doing this to do damage control for our reputations, not the daughters, for our reputations as parents in Texas.
and they had their daughter's money. Like, if they're selfish parents, you know, one could argue they got a come up out of their daughter's crime because she wired the money to her dad, trusting her dad. And the other thing though I'll say is like the TMZ docuseries tried to make her look like she had like the greatest upbringing ever and just wanted to be like Kim Kardashian, and something went the wrong way. But I think Tracker was pointing out, you know, different counsel. If you wanted to go like the issue of it was a psychological break that took place while she stabbed this dude. She has problems that were untreated, and yeah, she's guilty of the crime, but as far as sentencing, she shouldn't be, like, the culpability is a separate question, right? I don't think her defense counsel is going to argue that, and I think they're mistaken in not doing that, my personal opinion. But they could have gone after, you see how the family's cold? They got the money. They're trying to get into this laptop because they think there's cryptocurrency funds there. They're still trying to use their daughter. They don't care about their daughter. So everything you're saying is something that better defense counsel could be using to at least get their client out of the worst sentencing possible. And instead, the counsel is participating with the parents in trying to get into this laptop. And then Courtney's just stuck, even though I think she's guilty.
If your defense, you're bringing reasonable doubt, and it doesn't matter where it comes from. So it could be a matter of, I didn't know what to do. My mother kept me on the phone. You know what I mean? She said she could talk me through it. Well, your reasonable doubt can come from anywhere, and the defense doesn't seem to be putting up a real good defense, or they would be trying to walk back this flinging of the knife a long time ago.
Embraced it. They're rewriting the dictionary instead. They said, don't trust Merriam-Webster. Just listen to us and what we say the Texans say. Us Floridians are going to tell you how Texans define the word fling.
And I'm so disappointed at TMZ for not showing the, can I have a hug?
Yeah, they're going to show that at trial. I mean, they showed it at the bond hearing too. So, I mean, it's already...
I don't know. I'm like, if you're trying to get clicks and views, I'm like, show that is entertainment. Like, why would nobody in the history of interrogations has ever done that? So I'm like, why would you hide that?
And again, if I was defense, I'd be like, she clearly has detachment from reality and is just driven by emotion. I would go another route with this defense personally. I really would, but I'm not an attorney, you guys.
Me either. But
I just know what I see with my eyes, and things don't look right. You're not going to convince me if I was a juror, unless there's some crazy thing I don't know about, right? I guess I have to qualify that. I only know what I know. But if I was a jury with what I'm able to know.
That's another thing, is that we see a lot more than juries actually get to see.
But in this case, it's the defense arguing that this stuff should be shown. That's what's weird about this case. That's why I'm interested in it. Because the transparency is cool, right? Great. Sunshine laws in Florida are letting this be televised. The hearings are televised. Miami-Dade, when they have exhibits introduced, it's like public record. It goes out through their comms team the same day. As soon as it's filed in the court, you can get the exhibits. But it's like, cool, I don't need to even look into this. It's covered. There's no mystery. But then you see the defense, like, they're not showing everything. Show this too. And then the stuff the defense is coming out with, and then how they're characterizing it, you're just like, no, this is like a rabbit hole, or I'm like rubbernecking an accident on the road. Like, now I got to watch this case because the defense just seems like a train wreck.
Hmm.
Her Instagram live is still up.
And the dad, I think, like, you go all this work to try to get the laptop passwords, but you don't go and like private the Instagram account. Or she could have done that herself while she was out for 4 months. Like, honestly. Oh my God, this girl. Do you think there's people waiting for her to get back on OnlyFans, like her subscribers, like waiting for her to get out and get back on the app?
Listen,
Yeah, I absolutely believe so, because they're
She'd
like,
probably still make money too. That's the
when you
crazy
watch
part.
Dahmer, you see he was
of
getting
course she
fan
would.
mail. I'm like, it doesn't matter who you are.
Tracker says it's the Shaggy defense. It wasn't me. I think that's a good note to end on, you guys. I would do this anytime, especially chat. You guys can suggest comments. If I do this thing again, we can do a roulette to pick topics. And like, JT, thanks so much for joining in. Erica, thanks so much for joining in. Chat showed you guys lots of love, so you guys are always welcome to come chat. But especially, we can get a roulette and even plan in advance some topics to put on that roulette to come talk about anytime, you guys. Any last words?
Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming. Erica?
Thanks, Katt. You know you're my favorite on here.
Oh, well, you're my favorite introvert that came up on a live, so shout out to you.
Thank you.
Because that's a thing, right? You know,
Oh yeah, I love watching your lives and your videos and everything like that. It's very intuitive. So
well, I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys being here because you guys are eyeballs in the chat. Even when you don't want to come up, you have so many gems in the chat. And then shout out to Mr. Minutes. Shout out to the whole chat. I'm just spamming through some comments here. And then you guys all have a good Friday night. Hopefully we can do this again.
all right, thank